July 29, 2025. Los Angeles held its breath. Unmarked SUVs fanned across the basin as joint HSI-DEA teams rolled on pre-planned targets. At 10:17 a.m. in Monterey Park, plainclothes agents boxed a man in at a grocery lot, badges up. Wrist cinched before his cart stopped moving. 28 miles east in Fontana, a second team cut off a gray sedan on a residential street. The driver vaulted a hedge and hit the asphalt in cuffs 40 seconds later. This was not a routine immigration sweep. It was the opening strike on a Chinese-Mexican cartel pipeline that moved people, narcotics, cash, and coerced labor through businesses hiding in plain sight. By noon, warrants were live at storefronts that looked ordinary from the curb: a frosted glass day spa, a cash-only karaoke lounge, a nail salon with a spotless inspection score. Behind false walls, agents photographed cash counters, card skimmers, chip trays, and binders of shell company ledgers. Phones went into evidence bags. DVR units came off the wall with the wires still warm. On folding tables, evidence tags multiplied while the next addresses lit green on the warrant matrix. Word of the raids rippled through private channels. Some shutters came down, others stayed open like nothing had changed. But the message was already stamped on receipts and handcuffs. The target was the money spine, not the window dressing. Federal and local partners were mapping a network that blended nightlife, massage parlors, and logistics services into a single income stream, then washed it through accounts in other states. Remember, what you are hearing is a simulated scenario crafted for storytelling and learning, not an official account of real events. Quick question. In a takedown like this, do you hit the money handlers first, or strip away the front businesses to collapse the network? 2 weeks before the Los Angeles takedown, an innocuous downtown office block gave up its secret. After 9 p.m., tenant badges failed, but a freight elevator moved for a specific RFID card. Undercover agents wrote it to a sub-basement labeled Storage B. Behind a gray fire door, pulsing lights, a soundproofed room with a cashier's window, private booths, and a side office with embossers, blank cards, and a warm laser printer. Receipts were staged to look legitimate: event fees, room service, bottle minimums. The books balanced because the books were fiction. Cash arrived in backpack loads, counted under cameras, then split 3 ways. Structured bank deposits smurfed under $10,000, money service transfers through kiosks tied to shell companies, and crypto vouchers bought with QR codes behind the bar. A whiteboard mapped runners' routes by zip with nightly targets and a cut for the handler. A back room kept 2 ledgers, a neat one for auditors, and a real one with coded initials and exchange rates. Forensic accountants rebuilt the latter. At the top, a PRC-based coordinator priced services by menu: cash pickup, chip wash, payroll placement, identity rentals. Mid-tier managers controlled cover businesses, day spas, karaoke lounges, freight consolidators that produce steady deposits and believable invoices. Street-level crews recruited undocumented workers into kitchens, nail salons, and warehouse night shifts. Wages were skimmed, identities recycled through a sham driving school that arranged fraudulent tests, and DMV assists. Phone extractions showed the loop. Club Cash bought crypto. Crypto bought fentanyl precursors and skimmers. Precursors went south on pallets. Finished product returned north through cartel lanes. Proceeds boomeranged back through the club and satellites. One Friday pull $486,200 was broken into dozens of sub-10K deposits, a scatter of transfers, and out-of-state funnel accounts. Counter surveillance was baked in. Rotating Wi-Fi SSIDs, Faraday pouches, a door watcher whispering license plates, and rules that kept risk low: never concentration, never pattern, never linger. It worked until the warrants hit. With the wiring diagram complete, prosecutors stacked Title 18 counts: 1956 and 1957 money laundering, 1344 bank fraud, 1028A aggravated identity theft, 1546 visa fraud, and 1960 unlicensed money transmitting. Parallel forfeiture actions targeted accounts, vehicles, and the lease. The nightclub was just a switch. The network was the machine, and now it had a case number. While Los Angeles dominated the headlines, the next 48 hours widened the map. At 05:30 on July 30th, 2025, joint teams in East Baton Rouge served twin warrants on wellness storefronts whose lights never went dark. Inside, agents found keypad locked back rooms, cash drawers with pre-count bands, ledgers in Mandarin, and a runner's satchel with prepaid cards and 22 IDs. Hidden cameras fed to a closet NVR. The network cable ran to a second suite through the drop ceiling. Behind a false wall, 8 sleeping cots, passports in a zip pouch, and a rule sheet taped above a microwave. Fines for speaking to police. Fines for keeping tips. Victim specialists split the scene. Interpreters explained rights, T-visa pathways, and safe housing. Medics documented bruising and repetitive strain injuries. Evidence techs photographed fire code violations and removed a taped-over sprinkler head. IRS-CI tallied deposits that matched the Los Angeles pattern, structured cash, Zelle bursts, and payroll from shell janitorial firms. 2 iPhones yielded chat threads linking the house to a Flushing, Queens driving school. That school ran test day escorts, bribes, and doctored results. In exchange, the network received clean IDs to open accounts, lease apartments, and move product without tripping bank KYC. At 0610 in Queens, postal inspectors and I knocked on the school's steel door. Tables held blank cards, embossers, and DMV study packets with answers highlighted. A ledger showed 2,063 licenses issued in 2 years at $1,600 to $2,000 each, with kickbacks labeled by state code. A second ledger listed rentals identities leased to couriers and straw owners on 30-day terms. Phone dumps tied those rentals to a Pennsylvania freight forwarder that built consolidated pallets. Citrus, small electronics, and, buried deep, pill presses and synthetic precursor kits bound south. Cash and counterfeit cards rode north. By afternoon, a dozen stash addresses lit up row houses in South Philly, a nail salon in Allentown, a karaoke bar in Sunset Park, 3 storage lockers off I-10 in Mobile. Teams seized $1.9 million, 43,000 chip cards and blanks, 3 skimmers, pill dies, 5 coin counters, and 2 hardware crypto wallets. More important was the network graph now on screen. Nodes, money paths, and the hierarchy linking Chinese facilitators and Mexican suppliers, finally mapped, finally vulnerable. Arrests followed before dusk across boroughs. Back in Los Angeles, agents turned to the venue that tied the money, the labor, and the narcotics together: the Office Tower Nightclub. The warrant hit just after midnight on July 19, 2025. Elevators were locked down, stairwells held, power cut to the upper floors. When the breach team pushed through a false wall on level 9, the sensory shift was immediate: strobe lights, sub-bass, velvet booths, and a hostess stand that led not to a dance floor but to 3 keypad doors. Room 1 was banking. 2 cash counters clicked in tandem. A thermal laminator sat beside embossers. Runners sorted bundles into tamper bags with barcodes that matched ledgers. IRS-C. I photographed deposit slips in round number increments and rubber bands pre-printed with $20,000. Room 2 was housekeeping. Phones, passports, and a clipboard of shift rosters were locked in bins. A whiteboard listed quotas, fines, and transfers. Victim specialists moved in with interpreters and medical kits. Room 3 was the hub. DVR racks, a shortwave set, and a workstation mirroring chat groups in Chinese and Spanish. An audio loop captured code words for gambling tables and narcotics drops. What mattered most was the paper trail that was not paper. On a table sat a laptop running ledgers disguised as inventory. Bottles, linens, event fees. The hashes matched entries recovered a week later in Baton Rouge and Queens. Bank records showed nightly sweeps to shell accounts, then same-day wires to import firms with no shipments. Where wires stopped, mirror transfers started. Cash delivered in California, matched by equivalent cash handed out in Mexico City, while balances were settled later through goods invoices. Investigators documented it, not to teach a method, but to prove the conspiracy end to end. Outside, DEA processed a stash vehicle. Fentanyl pressed into counterfeit oxycodone, methamphetamine shards sealed in heat bags, and a ledger of buy-in chips from a suburban card room. HS. I traced a payroll company paying dancers and maintenance with fraudulent identities sourced from the Queens school. Before sunrise, the nightclub was quiet, evidence sealed, victims transported, and a federal complaint drafted. The shine had been a mask. Behind it was a command node now dark. By noon, indictments queued up, and the task force mapped next targets across 3 states for seizure. By sunrise on July 30th, the case had jumped coasts. A joint HSI-FBI team in Queens served a federal search warrant on the driving school that had funneled fraudulent identities into the pipeline. The storefront looked ordinary rows of road sign posters and practice tests, but inside, case agents found what prosecutors needed: rosters tied to cash ledgers, exam packages stamped with identical scores, and encrypted chats coordinating out-of-state appointments. Victim specialists interviewed clients in Mandarin and Cantonese, documenting coercion, debt bondage, and threats that kept them cycling through cartel-linked jobs under fresh names. The goal was not just arrests. It was to map the network from document fraud to labor exploitation and the money that bound them together. In Baton Rouge, parallel warrants hit 2 spas that mirrored Los Angeles. Legitimate shells masking trafficking and illicit finance. Agents documented wage skimming, camera-covered back rooms, and QR tip codes feeding the same laundering corridors identified at the nightclub. A suspended license bookkeeper admitted to shuttling deposits under reporting thresholds. Treasury analysts had already matched those trickles to bulk cash pickups on the West Coast. The case file thickened with clean links: phone IDs, shared couriers, and overlapping bank beneficiaries that made separate businesses look like one enterprise. Back in California, the financial strike landed. A federal magistrate signed sweeping seizure warrants, merchant accounts, prepaid card balances, a logistics company's consulting retainers, and 3 condos bought through layered LLCs. The money laundering architecture bled in quiet debits as agents executed the orders before dawn, leaving the network rich in contraband but starved of cash. IRS-C. I followed with forfeiture complaints built on ledgers, surveillance, and expert tracing that explained the scheme without teaching it. Community work ran in parallel. NGOs received grant-funded beds. Hotlines spun up in Chinese and Spanish. Labor investigators screened workers for visas and restitution. The message to neighborhoods was calibrated: target the traffickers, protect the exploited, and keep lawful businesses open. Internationally, the Justice Department queued up MLAT requests to Mexico and notices to financial centers in Asia, seeking records on remitters and shell importers. The task force's map now spanned 3 states and 2 borders, with a charging theory that knit the nightclub, the spas, and the license mill into one RICO case. The next step was kinetic but careful: a coordinated takedown that would freeze the accounts, free the people, and leave the cartel's city hub without a heartbeat. Before dawn on August 2nd, the task force moved from mapping to removal. Pager tones chirped across 3 time zones as arrest teams, victim specialists, and digital forensics units stepped off on synchronized warrants. In Los Angeles, a ladder crew breached the office tower's service door, while a parallel element rode the freight elevator to the nightclub's level. Sound-dampened rams popped cores, strobe lights froze the room. Security reached for radios and found dead air as a portable jammer hemmed the floor. Within 90 seconds, the DJ booth, the cashier cage, and the manager's office were secure. Narcotic swabs lit blue. Ledgers and burner phones dropped into evidence bags with timestamps. 2 floors down, a shell payroll company gave up its secrets. Work cards, tip codes, and QR receipts matched Queens rosters page for page. In Baton Rouge, fire inspectors went first, clearing the spas for hazards before agents cut through mirrored doors to locate hidden dorm rooms. 7 women were escorted out with blankets and translation headsets. Each received a trafficking screening, medical triage, and a phone number that would not be taken from them again. The financial cut followed the handcuffs. Treasury froze remitter accounts. A wire flagged in Hong Kong rolled back mid-route. 3 real estate titles flipped to his pendants, while civil teams prepared forfeiture affidavits. A public corruption squad quietly detained a DMV clerk tied to the license mill. The warrant inventory listed cash bans, answer sheets, and a prepaid card tree linked to the nightclub's deposit schedule. By mid-morning, booking photos filled a command post wall. The board showed nodes instead of faces: organizer, facilitator, launderer, enforcer, document broker. Prosecutors read out counts RICO conspiracy, trafficking, visa fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and assigned detention memos to line AUSAS with language support. Then came the part most people never see. Case agents met neighborhood leaders and shop owners, explained how notices would protect legitimate businesses, and posted a hotline for any retaliation. A restitution plan earmarked seized funds for victim services and unpaid wages. When the press conference ended, the work did not. Evidence had to be translated, chains of custody audited, and mutual legal assistance requests chased to completion. The city exhaled a little. The pipeline did not vanish, but its heart stopped beating for now.